So replacement behavior is to the ultimate goal. So hitting adult students, you go to hitting pillows, ripping paper, breathing and counting to 10, and then eventually expressing anger with words. And this can take a month to really, be very consistent with it in order to make the change. Consider this, the only way to make a behavior change permanent is to use positive procedures to reward appropriate replacement behaviors. Behavior-based techniques aren't working. So that's a lot of therapists get, oh, I think it might be behavior, or I think it might be sensory. So now we're going to talk about that. When we have assessed the function of the behavior, we can begin to choose appropriate strategies for changing the behavior. When we apply the strategy and it is successful, we can celebrate the child's growth. When we apply the strategy and it is not successful, we need to rethink our conclusion and try again. Do sensory activities help? And I mean, of course, I'm so biased by that because I'm a therapist, so I know sensory activities help. But sensory activities do not help behavior. And oftentimes that will make the behavior worse because the fidget toy becomes a toy, or it becomes a ball that you can throw at your friend in front of you, or you're rolling on the ball and now I'm going to use the huge therapy ball as a basketball. That's all behavior. If a student needs that sensory input, they're not going to necessarily use it in an inappropriate way. They're going to be bouncing on it, rolling on it, and then they get off it, and then they're fine. They've hit their threshold for sensory. They're at a just right level. But if the student is rolling on it, jumping on it, and then they get off and they're doing exactly the same thing, that's a behavior. Because the idea of the sensory activity did not, the output, or the outcome it wasn't achieved. They weren't calm, or they weren't alerted, or something like that. So that's a big thing that we get all the time, that either a teacher or a parent or someone will come in and say it's sensory, and then what we do as therapists is we take a lot of data and we check off every single day or every hour or something that says, yes, they had this reaction, because most of the time we have to prove that it's not behavior, or we have to prove that it is behavior. So, and the only way to do that is by doing a little program, a sensory program, and then taking data on it. That seems to happen a lot. When to implement sensory strategies. Attempts at positive approaches and models are implemented with no change in behavior, no solid observable antecedent, no identifiable function, attention seeking, and the child has a pre-established sensory diet. So if you already know they kind of have some sensory stuff, it's more or less likely that it's sensory. But if not, you've tried a whole bunch of stuff, there's no antecedent, there's no anything before that triggered the behavior, they're just doing it all the time, and there's no function. A lot of kids, they don't care if, especially a kid who's craving rolling on a ball, there's no function for it. The function is to make them feel better and to be able to sit in the chair. So that's not necessarily a behavior. They want to feel better and be able to sit with everybody. That's a good behavior. That's a good thing. But the kid that is just rolling on the ball and doing whatever, playing around, and then after that can't even sit, well, the whole sensory activity didn't even accomplish anything. It just made them, they just had fun for a little bit and probably avoided working.
They learned escape.
Right, it was an escape. Individually designed and monitored, uses sensory experiences to optimize functional performance and alertness. Intensity, frequency, and duration are key. Most successful as part of a child's natural environment, and support of classroom personnel required for carryover. Like I said, you guys are you are the front lines working with the kids. So most likely you've probably done some sensory strategies and things like that with the students and talked with the therapist. Sensory techniques, calming strategies, heavy work activities, incorporated movement activities throughout the day, weighted items, brushing, joint compressions, hands on the head technique, deep breaths, rocking chairs, and slow down your movements, your personal movements, and tone of voice. Now, that's my problem. I'm always moving, I'm always using my hand, and I would talk way too fast. And so when I'm working with a student that really needs to calm down, I'm a totally different person. I get in their mode, and I talk really slow, and it's really hard for me, but I do it. So that's something that you can automatically do. You don't need anything to do, change your voice and change your movement patterns. And these are just, these activities, heavy work activities are going and getting a drink of water. That's a great one for the older kids. Jumping jacks, chair push-ups, that's a great one for the younger kids. So we talked a lot about that. Alerting strategies, jumping jacks too. Shakeouts, marching, movement, have child change positions frequently, cushions, and TheraBand. So a lot of the stuff we covered in the last section. What would be something that would be considered sensory behavior or just behavior? What in your all your experiences, what do you guys have you been puzzled about something and not known whether it's sensory or behavior?
The student is sensory. He has that need to chew things. He wears the jewelry, and he also is allowed to chew gum now. But my student who was the runner was behavior because he didn't want to.
He was escaping.
Yeah, do what he had to. However, there were times where it was also sensory because he was hungry.
Right. Can he talk?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that's great that you figured that out. And they might not be able to say it, or they just might not have it in them to do it that day or that minute. And I understand that, and that's where breaks are great, and you can try to coax them and say, look, I know you're having a really hard time right now. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll get back to it. And that's where chunking would come in, where you chunk in, assignment, things like that is helpful. Okay, so make sure everyone on the child's team is on the same page. Knowing the child holistically will help identify how to foster success. I've even brought in the nurse. If I have a student that's having a really difficult time, I'll say, we'll have a team meeting, and I'll say, let's have everybody there, even somebody from, even a general ed teacher. I'll say, hey, can we have the art teacher come in? Or especially if there's a class where the student kind of excels at, or the teacher has a general ed teacher has, likes the student. That helps with the judging, because even if there's other people in the team that may be judging, you always have you and this other teacher to try to, because I did that. I worked in a multiply disabled classroom, and the art teacher loved all of the kids, loved them. So we would have him come in and to the IEP meetings, because he was such a great advocate. He would say, oh, so-and-so cleans up really well. Oh, I got them to wear their smock this week. I was so excited because they didn't want to put their smock on, and I got them to put it on. So even if it's the little things, they can be an advocate for that student and make the rest of the school see that, yeah, they are part of, they're not going anywhere, these kids. They're part of the school, and you can celebrate the little successes that they are able to make.
Plus, they need to have positive reinforcement, right, and know that when they're doing those things, they aren't always doing something wrong.
Right.
Even as adults, we don't want somebody to tell us every day what we've done wrong.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And the other thing I know you guys know is, for a lot of these sensory-seeking kids, is it's good for you guys to know your sensory kind of seeking things, and then you can help them to say, yeah, it's normal that you want to chew gum. It's normal that you want to cover your ears because it's really loud for me too. So just cover your ears while the fire drill is going on or something. And that's okay. I mean, I still do it. I don't like fire drill, so I'm always kind of protective, and I try to get out as fast as I can because I don't like that noise, and that's normal. I mean, we all have sensory problems, so it's perfect that you said that it's great for them to know that they're not, it's not an abnormal response that they're having. So, and do you guys have any questions?